Hi, you have McGann yet again. This is part 3 of my Vulnerable Narcissist Storytime. I do want to say there's a trigger warning here. I am going to mention someone talking about self-harm a lot. I recommend you watch parts 1 and 2 first, but if you just don't feel like it, basically I met a guy off a dating app and I slowly started to realize that he was a narcissist. At the end of part 2, he had discarded me, but this is part 3, so obviously there's more to talk about. And again, I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose, but based on the checklist of how vulnerable narcissists behave, that's what this guy was. So, I mean, this guy's gone out of the picture of his own accord, and I've been moving on just fine. I've been seeing other people. As they say, there are plenty of fish in the sea, and the last thing I want to do is be pathetically pining for somebody who doesn't want anything to do with me. Then we come to the Friday night after, all of this drama has unfolded, and it's been a week since he said, I don't want to see you anymore. You have too much anxiety. We can only be friends. I'm at home. I'm watching The Witcher that had just released, and it is after 10:30 p.m. And with no warning, I get this kind of, how have you been text? And I'm like, I've been just fine. So immediately after that, I get a phone call. It's the vulnerable narcissist on the phone, and he's crying and he's apologizing for being mean to me. And he's saying, oh, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be jerking you around like all these other bad guys that you've known. And I'm not going to do that anymore. And he's telling me that he's been thinking about self-harm. So he's on the phone, just sort of overwhelming me again with this hoovering love bomb and idealizing me and just I treated you so badly. I feel so awful. I'm such a horrible person. I can never forgive myself. I bet I blew my chances with you, didn't I? You think you'd give me another chance? And, especially with him talking about harming himself, I felt like all I could say was, it's okay. I did not want to feel like he was going to do something stupid and it was going to fall back and be on me. And he was begging to come to my house, claiming to just want a hug. But, I have kids and my house is a mess, so I wouldn't let him. And he's even going, well, I'll help you come clean. I really need a hug. I really need to see you. Can you maybe see me this weekend sometime? And just... I like a guy that can cry, I really do, but this was so, manipulative, he was trying to get his way. And I'm not saying that he didn't feel hurt in some capacity or that something wasn't going on to bother him, beyond losing me, but it's just he was coming at me with such an attempt to not be authentic here. It just did not feel authentic. And after almost a half an hour, I'm finally like, listen, it's late. Can we go back to texting? Because I was laying down about to go to sleep when you called. I just, I can't stay up all night talking to you. I'm trying to assert some power here and put myself first a little bit. And even over text, he kept talking about how he's tearing up and he's feeling so bad that it made me, as, the people-pleasing healer, just go into overdrive mode trying to compliment him so he'd feel better. And what I should have been doing was, being angry, or at least being reserved with him because of how badly he'd been treating me. I didn't get any warning. I didn't get any say-so. He just went, I really like you. I really like you. I really like you. Never mind, you have a flaw. I'm throwing you away. How is that supposed to make me feel as a person? But when you are always around narcissists for your entire life, you learn that holding a grudge just starts the devaluing process faster, which, if you don't know, I call it the Dreyer cycle of doom. Idealize, devalue, discard. So a narcissist comes in, they idealize you, they say all these wonderful things, get you addicted to them, then they start to devalue you, where suddenly you're crazy. Nothing you can do is right. Everything you do is wrong. It offends them. It bothers them. And then they basically pick at you to the point where they discard you. They don't want anything to do with you anymore. Maybe they ghost you, they block you, whatever, you're trash. And then when they run out of supply from their other source, they come back in to hoover you and idealize you some more so that you will feed back into their ego and make them feel good. So the point of getting devalued is so that you will work harder to get attention from them, and that feeds their ego. And then, of course, when you get discarded, it's usually so abrupt and you have no closure that you're just so happy when they come back to idealize you again. You'll forgive everything. You'll do whatever. But so, having grown up around narcissists and being married to a narcissist, I know that if they're being nice to me and I hold a grudge, I don't play ball with them, then they're going to start devaluing me and discarding me really quickly. And I want to live in that euphoric, nice stage for at least a little while. So you end up letting people walk all over you, just hoping that they'll be sweet to you for a little bit. But the niceness that I liked in this guy initially that made me want to say, maybe there is something here with him, you know, maybe he's just overbearing because he's so nice and he wears his heart on his sleeve. That nice guy never resurfaced again. This dude just remained an unhappy, sulking tower of misery who was just put out to know me no matter what I said or did. And hey, depression is no joke, so I tried to be very understanding and accommodating of his mental health, but his mental health issues that he is not getting treated do not have the right to come and impact me. That's when it's gone too far, and you have to start setting boundaries, because a narcissistic personality will take and take and take everything from you, and when you have nothing left to give, they toss you out. So even saying, you know, I have depression, so I'm acting like this, or I have trust issues, or I'm insecure, or I have anxiety. Okay, you can have those things, and I will be understanding of those things, but that is not an excuse to treat me badly. But I am a sappy sucker, so I ended up seeing him the next day after this big I'm so sorry call, and I was out Christmas shopping. I invited him to go with me, and, you know, he had some attitude. I don't know if he just doesn't like being in crowds or, you know, what his problem is, but it was mostly fine being around him. I mean, I was kind of getting used to his personality, so it wasn't as off-putting as it initially was when we went to the zoo. But there were some really strange moments that did not make me feel great. Like at one point, we're sitting in my car and I tried to get him to explain to me, you know, why he just tossed me aside and said, I don't want to be with you, you have anxiety. And he said that he was just so stressed out about his job and that there was all this Twitch drama that was going on and it was impacting him so badly. And I looked at him and went, but what does that have to do with me? Like, I'm not a part of either of those things, so why would you take that out on me? And he just went, I had to think about what I really wanted. Which again implies he took time to think about what he really wanted, and I was it. But this wouldn't be a story time video if it ended in a happily ever after, let me just say that. So that was weird, but then we were driving to a store, and for some reason it came up that I didn't have my date knife in my purse, because, you know, I'm a female. I do not want to get murdered, so I have a date knife. I have like this weird little switchblade thing. And I was laughing and saying, yeah, I call that my Joker poker, so I must really trust you if I didn't bring it with me today. And like, apparently this guy does not know how to comprehend normal conversation. Because, you know, I'm saying this, I'm laughing, I'm clearly telling him that I don't have a knife on me, and he keeps, like, almost freaking out, saying that I'm threatening to stab him. And I don't think he was joking. I think he was like seriously concerned that I was going to stab him. But I said nothing to that effect. All I said was that I don't have my date knife. And then we were in the mall shopping and he got mad when we're in this little tiny toy store, and I kind of like walked a few steps towards the back of the store to see what was back there. He was looking at stuff in the front, and it took about half a minute before he comes sort of stomping up to me, and he's like, why would you walk away from me? If I'm looking at something, then I want you to look at it too. I mean, that freaked me out. And then we went into a Hot Topic, and he kind of did the same thing again when I was just like 2 steps away from him. Like, we were in the same rack still, but I apparently strayed too far from my allotted space. I don't even know. I've never had anybody act like that towards me before. I am constantly wandering the stores. People are always looking for me. That's my thing. But yeah, I don't know why he needed to be so controlling about what I was allowed to look at or why I had to look at the exact same things as him. And then he just kept going back and forth about sort of our relationship status. It was so confusing. One minute he'd be calling me his girl, and the next he was saying, well, I couldn't have dumped you because we were never an item. But before we got in that initial fight where I challenged how he was behaving with other women, saying he wanted to bang them, he was the one asking me to be his girlfriend and calling me his pseudo-girlfriend when I didn't say yes, and insisting that every time I came to see him, it counted as an official date. But now I was minimalized and I wasn't important, and that just did not make sense to me. You know, I was giving him another chance because he was so apologetic, and I thought we were getting back on the relationship track that we initially started on. But now he was getting irritated if I said anything to hold him accountable for, you know, abruptly dumping me. And if I said something like, I didn't like that, that really hurt me, whatever, he'd start guilt tripping me and saying that I was kicking him while he was down. But then he'd he didn't really want to explain why he was down or what was going on in that regard. It didn't make sense. And he also got mad at me at one point because when he called to apologize and he was calling himself things like an a-hole, I agreed with him instead of saying, no, that's not true. So it kind of made it seem like his apology was really not sincere, that it was all this big act so that I would feed his ego and say, no, you're not an a-hole, you're great, you're perfect, I love you so much. Which, just to be clear, I never, ever once told this guy that I loved him. But still, it's like, okay, so the apology that you gave me for being horrible to me, which you were, was fake. Great. But the day ends, we part ways, everything feels good between us, and by the next day, I'm texting him like I used to, kind of enthusiastically and flirty, and it's like pulling teeth. He is barely responding to me, just very, short answers, and he just seems completely disinterested in texting me. So I just kind of walked away. I said, okay, well, you're busy and I'll be around if you want to talk to me later. Bye. Again, in my head, I thought that giving him another chance was going to mean that he was going to put the same enthusiasm and effort into the relationship that he initially did. But I felt like he was being weird, like he was about to bail on me again. And we even had a conversation before we parted ways about him holding still, let me fall for you, let me get attached to you, quit running away every time, you have a feeling. It's not a good, healthy way to be. And he agreed to that. So to beg me to come back to him, only to change his mind about me within 2 days, it was just surreal. But again, this was just the vibe I was getting based on how he was texting me. He hadn't said anything at this point. And the next day I texted him again, told him, have a fantastic day at work, something like that. And I got no response back whatsoever. But I could see that he was on Twitter. I could see that he was online on Twitch. He was very much active, just ignoring me. And so I ended up noticing that he had done a live stream the night before. So I was watching some of it, kind of skipping through. I thought maybe there's a clue in here that would help me pull him out of this, weird behavior and funk. But what I heard was that right before he called me on Friday night, he apparently had a horrible date. And even though he has still never mentioned me in one of his streams, he mentioned that date. So again, feeling a little bit insulted there. Then I start skipping around the video and I find where he's saying in 2022, he plans to move several states away so that he can chase this fantasy streamer girl who he randomly met once at a restaurant. Like they've got some relationship in his head already. Literally, what the freaking level of insanity is that? And he's changing his mind about me again within 2 days of telling me how much he missed me and that he wasn't going to jerk me around anymore. Plus, when I had asked him what happened, why did you dump me? He said it was Twitch and the new job that was stressing him out. But according to that stream, he had found a new toy to play with, and so he felt okay to throw me away, that he had found a better narcissistic supply. But when she didn't pan out, he came running back. So I was just disposable to him, and it just so happened that the trash hadn't been taken out yet when he came running to the can. Gee, that makes me feel wonderful. So I got fed up between hearing all of that crap and seeing him post these "my life is awful" tweets online that I just blocked him on Twitter. Like, I didn't want to see that rubbed in my face anymore. It was too disrespectful. Especially when I had already told him, if you are ever in crisis, if you ever feel like you're actually going to do something, you call me. I don't care what time it is. I will pick up that phone. I will be there for you, but just don't do something stupid. Do not hurt yourself. Like, I care about you. I would be devastated if something happened to you. Do not hurt yourself. And still he's posting stuff about his life being so bleak and he wants it to be over, kind of things. Like, it's not healthy. So I block him on Twitter. I'm getting no contact from him. I'm feeling like very hurt and insulted after, all this begging to give him another chance. And I'm just starting to go on other dates. I'm not really paying attention to him. I'm moving on from this toxicity that is him. And 2 days later, he notices that I blocked him on Twitter and he starts texting me to yell at me again. He's calling me a hypocrite, but to be fair, he originally blocked me out of pettiness so that I couldn't get closure, from him dumping me, which is another narcissistic move. So that way they can come back in at any time and say, I'm here with closure, baby. But I did not block him to do anything manipulative. I blocked him in one place to remove myself from something that I felt was toxic for my own mental health. I have lost a friend to the end of a rope, and I had been openly grieving about it online on, Twitter too. And even if he hadn't seen those posts, I had talked to him directly about it. So for me to offer to be there for him and for him to still be posting stuff like my life is over, I can't take this kind of thing, I just can't. I can't do that to myself. But, the sad thing is, even though I talked to him about my friend and how, I was hurting about it, that conversation was about me, not about him. So I doubt he listened to it to absorb it. But while he's yelling at me about blocking him on Twitter and how I'm a hypocrite, he's also saying things that are making me feel so guilty. Like, he says something to the effect of, if you can't handle this energy in your life, then just keep me blocked. And I felt so bad because everybody seems to abandon him for some reason that my damaged self ended up inviting to take him to this expensive restaurant where I paid for everything. And not only did I have to pretty much beg him to go, but, I don't mind to pay reasonably. But when he came out and knew I was picking up the tab, he's ordering appetizers, he's ordering desserts for himself to take home. And it just kind of made me feel taken advantage of. And I also gave him Christmas gifts, and I was apparently one of a very few people who did so. The only other gifts he got were from people that he went to their house for the holidays. So, then you feel kind of obligated to give that person something. That was the situation. So that's where he got other gifts. But I thought of him independently. I picked out something he said he wanted, and I gave it to him without, the awkwardness of, well, he's going to be at our house, so we got to give him something. I was nice to him. I was caring. I put effort into him. And then he fixated and complained about my gift when it was something that he had specifically asked me for the week before. And I was even telling him, no, I don't want you to open this in front of me. I don't like seeing people open things because if they have a crappy reaction, then that makes me feel really bad. But he started to emotionally blackmail me and say, well, I will never see you again if you don't let me open this in front of you right now. So to do that, to act like that, to put that extortion in my face and then complain anyways, like, what is wrong with you? How abusive can you be towards every boundary that I set? And even when we sat down in the restaurant, like, immediately he starts complaining on how I blocked him on Twitter. And I went, but you blocked me on Instagram. And he goes, well, I will leave right effing now if you're going to start complaining about who blocked who where and start trying to keep tabs. Like, I'm sorry, you can give me crap, but I can't even be like, don't hold a grudge because you did the same thing to me. And every time I'd get fed up, he'd throw out something that was very disarming to me, like a very sad, why are you even still talking to me? Or a panicky, are you seeing other guys? And I thought in the moment that was him showing some level of care for me, but in hindsight, I think that those were prompts for me to boost his ego again, so that I could tell him, he's so great, or he's my one and only, or I'm so sorry I upset you, baby. And I mean, I did apologize to him for the Twitter thing. I owned it. I said, yes, I blocked you. This is why I blocked you. This is how I was feeling. I'm sorry that hurt you. What else can I do for us to resolve this? He didn't want to have a resolution. He wanted to be upset, which is another telltale sign of a vulnerable narcissist. But, he's kind of wanted me to constantly reassure him. And I'm in my head going, well, yeah, I've been seeing other people since you dumped me. I don't really trust you. And so I didn't really take the bait of being like, no, baby, it's only you for me. And so he would kind of, not address that bothered him in the moment and instead sort of lash out during the next topic. So instead of saying, I'd like to talk about whether or not we're exclusive and, understand that and be on the same page, he would internalize that as an insult, that I wasn't saying, no, you're the only one for me. And then go, oh my God, I can't believe you bought me this. Oh my gosh. Ugh. It's just such an abusive, toxic way to be. And he keeps hinting about self-harm while we're trying to say goodbye, and I'm all but begging him not to. And I'm telling him things like, I would be crushed if you did something to hurt yourself. He's acting like he doesn't know how to process somebody, genuinely caring about him. He's telling me that kind of thing is hard to hear. And he's also asking me to follow him home, but, it's late. No, I can't. I got kids to get back to, and he's disappointed. But I mean, from my perspective, I was feeling like this is probably the last time we're going to see each other, and I'm okay with that. So I didn't want to get more attached to him. I didn't want to get entangled with, going to his house, and I needed a break. He's a lot. And getting more attached to him felt like a mistake at that point, so I went home. Then we're at the few days around Christmas, and I am barely hearing from him at all. And he had been kind of hinting previously that I should bring him home for the holidays, and I was kind of like, too soon? So he was going to stay with people, a state over to spend the holidays with them. That's fine. Not a big deal that I wasn't really hearing from him. But on Sunday, he's driving home after having a bad encounter with his mother, and then I suddenly became a priority for him to talk to. I was suddenly useful, but he really wants somebody to talk to. I listen. He invites me to come over to his place. I end up going. We talk. Things are okay, but I kind of notice, like, he is never telling me he likes me anymore. Like, before, he could not say enough to me. Oh, I really like you. I appreciate you coming. Oh, I like you so much. Oh, I want to do all this stuff. Like, none of that is going on anymore. And so I'm concerned on where his mental state is, and, if that's the problem, or if he's just changed his mind about me again. And I am really trying not to be selfish. I am trying not to make it about me. But at the same time, eventually, I'm going to have to understand what we're doing. I can't do this one day I like you, one day I don't, forever. And I notice while I'm there that he's kind of almost going out of his way to be mean-spirited towards me. Like, I fell asleep laying on him, and he jump scared me and laughed. I mean, that's something that you do to the girl you don't care about losing, like the one that you're sick of and don't want to keep around. You don't treat the girl that you want in your life like that kind of garbage. So I'm getting very big, you need to end this soon vibes from the whole night, because it's finally sinking into my head that I'm getting punished for a narcissistic injury by this guy, and that the nice guy is fake. He's not coming back, and I am dealing with another narcissist. Basically the nice guy I wasn't sure about, but I wanted to give a chance to, and then thought I could fall for, was just a ruse. And what was under that mask was very toxic. But then when it was time for me to leave, he's getting upset. Like, oh, you're not going to stay and watch this movie with me? And he had said stuff about, oh, do you want to come do this stream with me soon? So, I thought maybe I do mean something to him. So I didn't just want to be like, abruptly, no, peace out, I'm gone, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like, I didn't want to abandon him, with the holidays still being in play. And especially between the holidays and his talk of unaliving himself, I wasn't going to be that person who was like, no, I can't talk to you anymore, you're too much, get away, I'm done with you. Like, I was going to at least give it a few days after New Year. And I think part of me too was kind of holding out some hope that he'd drop his defenses and the nice guy would pop back out. If I just put up with enough bad treatment, that nice guy will see that I'm worth coming back out for. He just has to see that I'm not going to abandon him. I just got to hang in there a little while longer. But I never saw that nice guy again. And when I was leaving and we were hugging goodbye, like, he was holding on to me so tight and lingering. And everything felt okay. It felt good. It felt like he kind of needed me and that I was there for him. And I was, if I could play any part in him getting over this, I want to end myself hump, then I was happy to play it. But everything feels fine between us. We're supposed to see each other the next day because I have an appointment up by him again. But he texts me right as I'm starting to drive to his house and says not to come again. Which, by the way, is exactly what his mother had done to him over Christmas that had hurt him so badly that he needed to talk about it. They had plans, and she texted the next morning that she didn't want to see him after all. So I'm like, what the heck? What is going on? And I'm trying to understand what's happening and what is making him upset now. And he was just kind of a jerk to me. He acts like I mean something to him one minute, and then he just flips a switch for reasons I don't know, I don't understand, and he doesn't care about me anymore. And there's no reasoning with him or calming him down. He's up in his head, he's already decided, and it's just screw you. And if he decided at the last minute he wants to be alone after all, fine. But when you cancel at the last second and constantly threaten your own life, be a big boy and at least pick up the phone and talk to somebody. I tried to call him just to hear his voice and get a sense of like, okay, is he in a mentally good place right now? And he refused to answer the phone. In fact, he snapped at me for calling him. Yet, when he has an issue or gets upset and he calls me, I pick up the phone whether I'm, happy or not. But I don't get the same respect for some reason. Ultimately, he told me to go away, so I did. I started blocking him on social media to make the pending split easier, and 2 days later, he texts me that I'm this laundry list of things, including obsessed with him, so he'd rather be alone. This is like a week and a half after he was begging me to give him another chance. And I'm going to do another video to break down the insanity of that last message he sent me because it is absolutely delusional and makes no sense. And I don't want to talk to this psycho again, but I need to set the record straight somewhere that he is so full of it and so mean, and it's not right. So I'm going to talk about it in a video. But overall, what happened is that I was so worried about his feelings and him not hurting himself that I put my own needs last again. I became afraid to challenge this guy because he'd threatened to take off if I asked for any accountability. I saw the red flags up front, but I kept feeling bad for this poor, sweet guy that no one would give a chance to. I even rubbed this dude's feet, and he still tossed me aside like I was nothing multiple times. And one of the things that it still bothers me so much is that this dude would actively ignore things that I said or wrote so that he could cherry pick different versions of reality. For example, when we had that fight about his Twitch stream, I said something to the effect of, I'm not accusing you of sleeping around, but I don't know where these people live, and I've had bad experiences with guys cheating on me, so I need clarity on where we stand, but I know you're not the people who hurt me and I'm not the people who hurt you, so we just have to build up an understanding with each other. His response to all of that, which I thought was very, well written and reasonable, was, I can't take this, I'm not your ex, and blocked me. So it's like I was constantly being misunderstood on purpose so that he could rage out and blame me for it. So I tried to care about his feelings, and all that got me was some new emotional scars and trust issues. It's my own fault for ignoring the flashing red signs. I need to stop playing into that. But that doesn't excuse the trauma bonding, future faking, breadcrumbing, love bombing, intermittent reinforcement, and idealized devalue discarding that this guy was blatantly doing. And all of those are the abusive tools of a narcissist so that they can manipulate people. This grown man emotionally swung up and down worse than a toddler, and the people pleaser in me just panicked. And I started performing tricks to try and keep him happy. But it was never going to be enough because he craves conflict. And he has to control everyone but himself. And every time we went out, he would just fixate on how negative every little thing was until I was saying things like, you have wonderful company tonight. There are things to be happy about. But he was like a dog with a bone that just couldn't drop it. Even when he was talking about doctors and exes, he was always the victim. He never did anything wrong. Even if what he was describing as a problem sounded like really routine medical stuff or, regular relationship issues. He kept saying one of his exes used him, and finally I was like, how? And he goes, she asked me to buy this $100 tent for her and her kids. And I was like, okay, did you have the option to say no? You could have said no. I mean, using you would be taking your card and buying it without your permission. If she made a request as your girlfriend for a gift and you obliged her, that's on you. And he was so controlling. He tried to fight his landlord the first time I came over. He actually got up in arms and started yelling at me because I had not scheduled my COVID booster shot yet. And knowing that I like video games, he wouldn't let me play his arcade machine. He just asked me what game I wanted to watch him play, like I wasn't allowed to touch it. Then he kept calling me weird and weirdo until I felt bad about myself. And he was always asking me if I was talking to my friends and family about him, even though he was never talking to any of his people about me. I was really feeling like his dirty little secret by the end there. And he behaved like he wanted a girl, but he wanted a girl to play mommy for him and take care of him as their full-time job, while he offered nothing in return. And then he was a liar. The first night I gave him my phone number, I mentioned something about doing ghost hunts, and his response was like, oh, that's so cool, marry me now, LOL. But later, when I'm actually talking about ghost stuff, he's snapping at me in my face about, this is so weird. Why are you bringing this up? I don't like any of this. Why? This is bothering me. This makes you sound like a freak. It makes you sound crazy. And just like nagging on me so hard Like, I thought you liked ghost hunting. Like, you literally said that in the first couple days that we were talking to each other. So I was just constantly confused with this guy and walking on eggshells, not knowing, what was real, because he'd say two different things that were contradictory and mean both of them. Plus, his memory was really odd, and I don't know if that's connected to the listening problem that vulnerable narcissists have, but he kept forgetting things that do not strike me as things that you should forget. Like, he complained twice in the same hour that I did not give him a Christmas gift, and I had to remind him both times that, yes, I did. And then he was like, oh, you're right. But even aside from that, he didn't get me anything for Christmas, so where does he get off, like, oh, you didn't get me anything for Christmas. Oh, are you just supposed to be my gift for Christmas? Just, why are you acting like that? Like, you got me some great gift. Like, you didn't get me anything. And it's not that I'm asking you to get me anything, but way to be ungracious. He was just like a spoiled child. I don't even think I was a person to him. And I think at the end of the day, what he wanted was a pet girlfriend who would sit at his feet, be quiet, never question him, and service him when and how he demands. Good luck with that, buddy. And I'm really not sure if this guy was a true narcissist or just mimicking things that he saw his family do while he was growing up, because I really would see this decent guy pop up from time to time, and I'm still not sure if he was totally fake or if he was just, buried in all this other junk. But either way, that doesn't excuse being abusive to people, so really it doesn't matter what his issues are or are not. And there was also something just really scary, bipolar to his personality that made my normally very vocal self, who is used to fighting with narcissists on the daily, just be very quiet and submissive. And while I feel used and hurt after all of this has gone down and just, betrayed on some levels, I'm also really glad that he said he was done with me. Because really, even though I had this plan in my head that after New Year's I was gonna, get away from him, there's no telling how he would have responded once I did that. So I might have never broken free from this abuse if he hadn't decided, hey, I'm done with you. I was being so bad about gaslighting myself and trying to convince myself that I had found this poor little baby bird and it had a broken wing and it just needed somebody to help it and care about it, that I totally blinded myself that what I actually picked up was a snake. And that snake was alone because it keeps poisoning people. And I even tried to set boundaries, like, he wanted to make Thanksgiving and Christmas plans with me to, bring him home and meet my family when I'd known him for, a couple weeks. And I wouldn't do that. But he made me feel so bad that he was all alone that I let other boundaries slide when I shouldn't have. I wanted to compensate. I wanted to show that people could care about him, that the world wasn't awful. I really, really tried to care about this guy. But it's like he doesn't know how to process people who aren't toxic and yelling at him. I don't get it, but I do feel really bad for him. I truly believe that he is all alone and very lonely. And I really think he uses Twitch to substitute for in-person interactions with people, having, real tangible connections. And not that internet friends can't be great. They can be, amazing. But there's just something different about having people actually with you, actually in your space that you can actually talk to on the phone and know that they're close by and would come for you. And I would have really ended up being there for him if the nice guy I had met originally been genuine. But instead, he is an unwell narcissist trying to trauma bond me by running extremely hot and then icy cold, and I just can't do that to myself. Anyways, guys, that is kind of the end of the roller coaster ride, but I am gonna do a video going over the, goodbye forever message that he sent me, because it's something. Let's just say it's going to be worth to stick around for part 4. Thank you for watching, guys. And remember, always do what's best for yourself first, because the narcissist is always going to do what's best for themselves first, and they don't care if they hurt you, frankly. It's all about them.